The voice of sharing, 突然那想。
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Good morning, everybody. This is Grace. Welcome to Duyan ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. We apologize for the delay in our news commentary. However, we're gonna start our news commentary after one day of holiday, which was Thaipusam. Well, as much as people were celebrating one of the major Indian festivals in Malaysia and also other countries, there were also some accidents that happened during Thaipusam and also a day before. Apparently, a day before Thaipusam, people started gathering, especially nearby Batu Cave, and that there was a blackout for about a couple of hours when the people were there to celebrate the Thaipusam festival. And what happened on that day itself was there were quite a few accidents that people wanted to climb the Batu Cave and wanted to look around what it is really like to be in the Thaipusam festival. And then there were some accidents of people falling off to the cliffs, and then quite a bit of injuries happened. So with that, celebrating festival is one thing. However, there are some precautions that needs to be taken into consideration when it comes to festival seasons. And we are expecting another huge holiday in Malaysia and also in China as well, which is Chinese New Year. So we hope to have a more safer festivals and also be able to celebrate with families and friends together. Well, moving on to another news, which was reported yesterday, and then it went pretty viral because apparently there was this Chinese woman. She dried her underwears at the airport, and then she was just hanging on the chair, and then the pictures were taken, and it was uploaded on the Facebook mainly. So according to a report in Bangkok, the image of the color of the bra was pink, and the woman's black underwears was just hanging over or draped over the back of the chair at the Chiang Mai airport. And it, like I mentioned before, it went pretty viral on the social media over the weekend. So this picture, we actually don't know who took the picture of this underwear, but definitely it is something that it was unbearable at the airport, that people were not pleased with it. And it actually sparked a sharp warning from the tourism authorities that tour agencies should curb such inappropriate behavior. Of course, because when it comes to the airport, there are people from different cultures, different backgrounds, and different countries, of course. And then when they see this kind of scenes at the airport, it's just to make your face frown at the scene immediately. And according to the report in the Bangkok Post, the image of the pink bra and the woman's black underwears are draped over, and also pictures was posted on social media, and it met with the most criticism from netizens who said it was it was very inappropriate. And also, they will report further, said quoting the airport public relations officer, that this incident occurred about 2 weeks ago. The woman was likely waiting to catch a flight back to China, and it was around 9 p.m. and it was a peak waiting time. So similar such inappropriate activities were not uncommon. That it was the report saying. However, well, when it comes to waiting or on a board, people really need to consider not only what other people will think about yourself, but also what are the ethics and the behaviors that they need to really carry out properly. And this kind of a report, has been mostly from China, and it definitely people will have another stereotype when it comes to Chinese people from China. So this is something really not a positive when it comes to image to one nation. Well, moving on to next incident. It's more moving quite far away from Malaysia, which is in the France. So there were 8 arrests in raids on the jihadists. Well, after the Charlie Hebdo incident in January, especially the Europeans, people are pretty much intense and also quite afraid of the attacks or whatever it is, some kind of violence happening in the European countries, that they have become quite sensitive towards that. And the arrests in the Paris and the Lyon areas are not linked to the Charlie Hebdo attacks at all, but the France remains on alert up after the 70 people were killed in attacks on this regarding the magazine and then and also Jewish supermarket. Apparently, this under French law, the suspects can be held for up to 96 hours without charge. And also, speaking at the press conference, it was said that the 8 men had actively participated in a networking, recruiting French youth for jihad in Syria. Well, we've just, during ASEAN, talked about ISIS and its movement and throughout the ASEAN region especially, but we also didn't ignore how it's spreading out widely in other countries such as France, Germany, and also Australia. And the movement is becoming stronger and stronger, and people are just very convinced by all this community and the people from jihad or ISIS. And this battle against the terrorism is also a race against time, and this is something that the country cannot ignore it anymore. The French government they think and also estimates that around 400 French citizens have traveled to Syria and Iraq as well to fight alongside the militants, and then that there are approximately 900 more at home with links to recruitment cells. So which means it was just reported around a few hundred here, but actually the figure could be higher. And also around the 161 terror-related legal proceedings were in progress, with 547 individuals suspected of involvement in the terror networks. So this arrest was a similar raid a week ago in the southern France, with 5 men that were detained in a small town of Luna on a suspicion of belonging on the jihadist cell. So around also 10,000 troops were deployed across the France to protect public spaces, schools, and also other mosques as well. And similar measures were introduced in Belgium in January after the major anti-terror raid in the city of the Villiers, in which 2 suspected Islamist militants were killed. And also that also affects the surrounding countries such as Germany and also other countries, also Belgium, which had attacked. And it also said that suspects had returned from Syria and were planning an immediate attack on the Polish targets. The security needs to be strengthened and also tightened in terms of having more attacks from Middle East country, especially ISIS and also jihadists, because these people can come to your area without any warning or sign or any signals that they can just come to you and then convince you with whatever methods they can use to. So please be aware and don't ignore this kind of news going around you, even though the area or the country may seem far away from our nation, but they are also, not to forget that they are also targeting ASEAN region as well. So we'll just take a very short break and we'll share more news from Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Daily. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Good morning. Welcome back to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. You are still with Grace at the news commentary session. So we'll just stay in our nation, Malaysia, for a while to report the news about the flood and also rising sea level that can actually lead to inundated coast in the future, meaning that well, it was the devastating floods that happened and recently in east coast of peninsula, and also things will actually get worse in the coming decades. The National Hydraulic Research Institute said that many of our coastlines were being affected by rising sea levels, with numerous parts of the country expected to be underwater by the end of the century. Well, this is not something new actually, coming from Japan. The sea level is rising, and then the country itself is sinking by 1 centimeter annually. And Malaysia, apparently, the sea level have been rising by between 0.2 millimeters and 4.4 millimeters every year since 2010. And this is mainly due to climate change. They also mentioned that this may lead to affect more than 8 million people at today's count for sure. The areas that will experience the highest sea level rise are the Kedah and Kelantan coast, Sungai Sarawak estuary, and also east coast of Sabah by around between 0.4 and 1.1 meters. He said the Malaysia was very susceptible to rising sea levels, and that this will be especially critical at these low-lying areas. So with a lot of things are going on in Malaysia, with a lot of incidents happen, especially the flood that actually hit east coast area of Malaysia just recently, and many people were not prepared to face this natural disaster, and the government and higher authorities managed to take into action to show the support after a few days, and also there were many volunteers when they're to help them out. However, that's not the end of it. What can we do to actually prevent from the upcoming events in the future, because we never know and we can't predict. So this is something that we really need to work towards it, to be able to have policies and regulations or institutions to implement and also educate people there. Tawau would be the hardest hit nationwide, with the sea level projected to be 1,064 meters higher by the year 2100 than they were today. So it's much, much higher, and then this could be quite devastating for sure. And Kudat, Lahad-Datu, Tawau, Sadankan, and Kota Kinabalu were seeing sea level rising by 3 millimeters, 3.5 millimeters, 3.6, and 4.1 millimeters each year. Well, it is worse still. The sediment type along Malaysia's coastlines comprises sand, clay, and slits were easily eroded by strong currents and waves. And definitely not to forget, we had a tsunami incident way a long time ago, and then the current were very, very strong that nobody could actually withstand the pressure. And this existing coastal structures may be swamped by waves, especially during heavy rain at high tide, and that will definitely cause another very bad flood in those areas. And some 55% of the area was also occupied by the important industries, including agriculture, constructions, and the fisheries as well. And then not to forget, all those ports were also going to be affected by the rise in sea levels. And the harbors in Penang, Perak, Selangor, and most of those in Sabah were projected to have the sea levels higher than 50 cm by 2100, or compared to 2010. So, 2100 seems quite far away, and in fact, it's after a few years. However, with this warning of the rising in sea levels, it is something that we really need to look at our structure or architecture, or even all those geographical shape of our nation, to be able to prevent from this upcoming event. Because rising sea level means we are literally the ground level, it is sinking below the sea. And Malaysians could not avoid this phenomenon at rising sea level. Well, it's a global issue and it's inevitable. However, there are still something that we can prevent from having more damages. Adapting to this climate change and employing disaster risk management, it's very important, and this is something that to minimize the vulnerability. And definitely, the government and the higher authorities are working on to prepare the country for this phenomenon. And let's travel to South Korea, which is to have to resume this North Korea nuclear talks. This talks has been going on for some time, and it's very crucial and also very important, especially to South Korea and China, and also Japan as well. South Korea and China will resume talks on efforts to curb North Korea's nuclear weapons program. Han Jung-kook, South Korea's chief delegate to six-party talks, he will meet his Chinese counterpart, Wu Dawei, in Beijing, to talk about this nuclear, that actually North Korea has announced several times to launch this nuclear test in several countries and also from their nation as well. And this is very threatening to neighboring countries, because these possibilities of attacking other countries are higher, and they are not considering when it comes to human rights. They just want to present themselves as one of the powerful countries that has a nuclear weapon, and also to be able to implement that, North Korea is still a powerful country. And also, Beijing meeting raises the possibility of a new round of diplomacy to revive the six-party talks that was actually held in the 2008 in December, and the grouping the two Koreas, and it was hosted by China, Russia, Japan, and also US as well. This North Korean nuclear envoys had been secretly discussing the idea of talks about talks, but had been unable to agree on the practical arrangement. So we want to test if they have an interest in resuming negotiations. This is according to the US, and they think we've made it very clear that we could like to see them take some steps first. So definitely this North Korea, they carried the nuclear test continuously since 2006 and 2009 and 2013. And last month, the former American officers, including Stephen Bosworth and Joseph Detrani, both of whom have the long history of dealing with North Korea, they actually met in Singapore with Ri Yong-ho, North Korea's vice foreign minister and lead nuclear negotiator. This aim was to check the lay of the land, and also Singapore meeting resulted in the suggestion that Sung Kim, the U.S. Special Envoy for North Korea policy, met the North Korean counterpart. However, the U.S. was unwilling to send its envoy to Pyongyang, so this decision was definitely criticized by the North, definitely. when it comes to nuclear test or nuclear weapon, it's very sensitive and also could be very controversial because the agreement and the arrangement has to be met on the common ground to be able to carry out the plans. However, if one is very stubborn and then very firm on the idea of having carry out the nuclear test and also not being able to scrap the nuclear weapons, it will definitely cause a lot of problematic idea to have the agreement and arrangement, and also to have a diplomatic normalization as well. So this is something that we really need to keep our eyes on to see what's the progress and how are they going to improve these issues and also to achieve the common ground altogether. The North Koreans definitely have made it clear, especially publicly and also privately, that they are the nuclear weapon state, and that they intend to be a nuclear weapon state forever, which is very firm and stubborn idea coming from North Korea. So we'll take another short break and we'll come back to talk about perhaps from Singapore this time.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Welcome back. This is Grace, and you are still with the Drian ASEAN News Commentary all the way from Southeast Asia. So, like I mentioned shortly before, I'm going to report something from Singapore. Singapore has blocked access to overseas gambling websites after legislation imposing the sweeping ban on the remote betting went into effect. So, the Remote Gambling Act passed through the Parliament in October last year, and that actually took effect, that giving the government broad powers to block access to overseas gambling portals as well as to stop electronic payment to their operators. And several hundred remote gambling websites have been blocked. There are popular gambling websites based on abroad, such as Paddy Power's, ibcbet.com, and then sbobet.com, were not accessible on Tuesday afternoon from Singapore. And viewing and using this website at your current location is prohibited due to its regulatory rules. It looks like Singapore, in terms of gambling or online payment, it's getting worse and it's getting stricter. And under this law, exemptions can be granted for locally based online gambling operators that follow the strict rules and operate on the non-profit basis. And also this lottery operator, Singapore Pools, told the local media that it will apply for this exemption. And also this nation is currently banned access to about 100 websites, mostly featuring pornographic, extremist, and hateful content as well. And this access to extramarital dating site Ashley Madison is also banned in the site states. So there are not only the gambling website, but there are also other websites that they are about to ban in the Singapore. And there will be this new law will make it an offense punishable by jail terms and fines for people to place bets on overseas gambling websites from Singapore, while advertisement for them to online and offline platforms will also be outlawed. So it's definitely becoming quite strict, especially for the young persons, which the Singapore, the main law and the order is to protect the young persons and other vulnerable persons from being harmed or exploited by remote gambling. And this media and the technology experts have said the prevalence of a virtual private network, it's also called VPN, usage among Singaporean users could erode the effectiveness of the restrictions. However, the authorities have also threatened to block the website for VPN service providers that offer services openly aimed at bypassing the ban on the remote gambling. So this has already implemented, and apparently online gambling market is estimated to be worth around 1.5 billion ringgit, with 95% of revenues headed towards the overseas website. So definitely Singapore has come up with the laws and regulations to block and also ban all these websites in the nation. Let's quickly move to Philippines. Apparently, Philippines faces challenge of unequal growth even as economic takes off. After the economic fluctuations in Philippines had happened before, it was actually going to be stabilized, and it's also has become the hot investment favorite and one of the fastest growing economics in the world. And also, it was actually thought that 2016 is critical in terms of the long-term outlook for Philippines because of this secure and also economic growth in the nation. However, there is a still gap between those who can just live on less than the $2 per day, and also there are still a lot of people who don't have job and they still look for a job. Only 42% of population they still live on the less than $2 per day. And it is the Philippine growth is now more inclusive, and there are signs benefits that are trickling down, and more than 1 million jobs were created in 2014, and all those positive news have been reported in terms of unemployment decrease that actually fell to 6%. However, the challenge is still there when it comes to job opportunities, and especially taking care of those people who have been looking for a job but they are still jobless in the nation, and the gap is just getting wider and wider. Manufacturing, the sector probably best able to raise the productivity and also income of low-skilled workers, could benefit as low wages and also competitive currency help the Philippines grab some of the production that is leaving China because of rising costs as well. So this is the end of the news commentary for today, and please look for us at DurianASEAN.com. We also do have our social channels such as Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram, and but please go back to our website for look for the more contents. We'll bring more news from Southeast Asia tomorrow.